Hello there, this is Benny.
And this is Kyle.
And you're listening to The Doctor's Watcher.
The only independently produced podcast where I watch Doctor Who, and I listen to Doctor Who, and I tell you about it.
Hey Kyle.
Hey Benny.
How's it going? Oh, hi Matilda. How's it going?
We have our occasional guest co-host here today, my cat Matilda.
Yes. How's she doing?
She's doing well, and I am also doing well.
Did you let her in?
Yeah, I had my door closed, my office door, but she objected to that, so now it's only mostly closed.
Yeah, she loves you a lot, Kyle.
Yeah, she does.
Not like being separated from you.
So I wanted to mention before we get into today's, there are actually two things I wanted to mention. First was that I just checked our listing on Apple Podcasts a moment ago, and I found that we have 6 5-star ratings now. I believe we previously only had 5.
Whoa.
Yeah, we still just have 5 reviews, which we appreciate, and yeah, but I wanted to say thank you to whoever gave us our 6th 5-star rating. I don't think iTunes will tell me your name unless you leave an actual review, but whoever it was, thank you.
Shout out to our anonymous 5-star rater and to all our raters and reviewers. We appreciate you.
Indeed, we do very much. The other thing I wanted to mention was that I felt like I should let you all know that if you do a little bit of internet searching on a popular search engine that has an image searching option, you can find some color images of Barbara's Yetaxa costume from this serial, and it's pretty great. I would definitely recommend that you do that.
Cool. Yeah, that... you want me to do that right now, or should we save that for later? You know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it right now. Barbara Yetaxa. No idea if I'm spelling that right. Of course I'm not. It's Y-E Taxa. Audience. Oh, yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, it's really kind of a shame that it's filmed in black and white because, like, the colors are pretty striking.
Yeah. I always think Barbara's kind of cute. Like, she has a kind of face that you don't really see as much on TV these days.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely understand why Ian might be into her. And, you know, that Thal, I forget the Thal's name, but there's that Thal that was into her.
I love their voices, too, that there's that, like, BBC pronunciation that they do that always sounds so old-timey, but, like, kind of charming, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So today we are discussing the 30th episode of season 1. These are long seasons.
Short episodes, long seasons.
This episode is The Day of Darkness.
Yes.
And Benny, I suspect that you probably do recall what our cliffhanger is. Would you remind us?
Yeah, I feel like last time I tried to describe the cliffhanger, I just kind of... I had some memory of what happened, and I talked for a while, and then I just kind of kept talking until I kind of no longer knew what I was talking about. So this time I'm just going to keep it short. So Ian went into, and yeah, obviously I can remember better because we just recorded the previous episode like 5 minutes ago. But yeah, so Ian went into the tunnel that leads from the garden to a lake. We found out that they had hoped that it would lead into the temple, but as he was, crawling through this tunnel, they replaced the stone behind him, the stone that has the symbol of Yetaxa on it. So now he's stuck, and of course, inevitably, the water starts to come in, so he can feel the water trickling in over his open-toed sandals. So he is in a bit of a bind as we start this episode.
Indeed. And in this bind, he is not sure what he should do. And so he does something that is always a smart move when you're not sure what to do. He rolls an investigation check.
Excellent.
And turns out it was a pretty good roll because he is able to find the secret exit in the roof of the tunnel.
Nice.
So he opens up that trapdoor or whatever and climbs up and finds himself in another tunnel that's not flooding.
Yes, when in doubt, trust your dice. And it's that old Dungeons and Dragons players standby of like, okay, I'm not smart enough to figure this one out, but my character is. So I'm just going to roll that check and see if my character can figure it out.
Back in the old folks' garden at the tunnel exit that has just been closed, the doctor is asking Ixta to open it again. And he tells Ixta that Ian is in there, hoping that, maybe this would provoke Ixta to open the tunnel and save Ian. But Ixta's just like,
I thank you, old man. This time you have really given me my victory.
There goes that ship. Sinking before it really had much chance to do anything.
So meanwhile, Ian exits from this other tunnel into the tomb. There's this kind of secret door that slides open from the side of the sarcophagus that he climbs out from. And so he looks around in the tomb. He sees the TARDIS. He finds the wall that opened up earlier that they went through. And he forms a plan, which he then proceeds to execute.
Cool.
He kind of looks around inside the tomb until he finds what looks like a leather strap from the tomb accoutrements, and
cool, kinky, cool.
Yeah. He loops this strap over a hook that's above the wall, above the opening wall.
Oh, we're just getting increasingly kinky here.
So he loops the strap over this hook, and then he actually opens the wall and he exits the tomb, but he takes the other end of the strap out with him and then allows the wall to close, but now it's got this leather strap coming out from underneath it. Mm-hmm. The idea is that they can now use this strap to pull the wall open from outside the tomb, from the temple, basically.
Smart thinking, Ian.
Yeah. And, of course, the tomb exits into the temple, where Barb Taxa is obviously surprised to see Ian. So, as he's telling her about the tunnel, they hear the doctor approaching. So Ian, quickly hides behind the throne. And the doctor shows up, saying,
"Something terrible, my dear. I just don't know how to tell you. Ian!"
But Ian interrupts him.
"I'm all right."
Nice.
So, yeah. Doctor tells Ian that Ixta put the stone back, and Ian's like,
"Oh, so he followed me, eh?"
And the doctor's like,
does care.
The doctor's like,
Yes, of course he followed you.
you rolled a terrible stealth check. So now they've got the three of them, Barbara, Ian, and the doctor, and they've got a way back into the tomb. All they need is Susan.
Mm-hmm.
Ian...
That shouldn't be too hard. She's only scheduled to be killed.
Uh-huh. Well, punished.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think she's going to have her tongue pierced with thorns, if I recall.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's not... I mean, we don't want that to happen either.
So Ian tells the doctor to, stay here in the temple with Barb Taxa, while Ian heads off to the seminary to get Susan. In the warrior's chamber, Tlatoxel is like, nice job, Ixta, you finally killed Ian. By the way, I've got a new job for you. Guard the handmaiden. And he brings Susan into the warrior's chamber, and Ixta makes her sit down. And Tlatoxel tells him not to let Autloc take her, and then he leaves. Ixta turns to Susan, and he's like, hey, guess what? If you're wondering where Ian is, I totally murdered him like a badass.
Oh. You're going to get what's coming to you, Ixta.
Uh-huh.
It's not what the shippers were hoping for.
Now, 7 warriors have challenged my right to command, and only I survive.
But of course, as he says this, Ian sneaks up behind him, and Ian says,
good commanders don't jump to conclusions, Ixta.
And
Nice.
knocks him out.
Nice.
At least, I think he knocked him out. It kind of looked like he snapped his neck,
Oh, shit.
but I think he probably just knocked him out.
Yeah, this is a kid's show. He just
In any
walks up
case-
behind him, puts his arms around his neck and just crack.
Ian tells Susan that they're gonna head to the TARDIS, and the two of them GTFO out of the Warrior's Chamber together.
Mm-hmm.
Back
Second
in...
time this episode that someone was declaring that Ian is gone, and then he shows up exactly at that moment.
Uh-huh.
That quippy line, which could have been quippier. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I'd agree. I was gonna say 6 out of 10, so that's literally the same rating.
Reduce your fractions, Kyle.
I did like previously how he kind of plays it as a joke on the doctor. The doctor's all upset that Ian's dead, and Ian just kind of pops up and is like, nope, I'm fine.
Just an emotional roller coaster for this poor old man.
Back in the temple, Barb Taxa and the doctor are waiting for Ian to return with Susan. Mm-hmm. And the doctor is kind of checking out the strap situation that Ian's got set up. And he's like,
This isn't going to be easy, you know.
he wishes that they had a pulley. But as Barb Taxa points out,
But the Aztecs don't have the wheel.
I know.
an
Kids.
educational moment counter ticks up 1.
Yeah, it's an educational show.
So Ian and Susan do arrive a moment later, and now that we've got all 4 of them together, they decide to go ahead and give it a try to open up the tomb. So they pick up the strap. The doctor wants a better angle at it, so he kind of angles the strap over the top of the throne. But as they're all pulling on it, the strap kind of rubbing against the throne breaks.
Oh, earlier when Ian set the whole strap door thing up, he was like, I don't know, I only rolled a 9, and the GM's like, okay, well, you did that. It's like, I don't know if that's going to be good enough, and the GM's like, well, we'll see.
We'll see. Meanwhile, back in the Warrior's Chamber, Tlatoxel is pretty annoyed that Ixta managed to lose Susan. Ixta's like,
I shall find her.
But Tlatoxel's like,
No, I shall.
Yeah, he's like, earlier I was saying that the one thing that you've gotten right this whole time is that you've killed Ian. Guess what?
so Tlatoxel's got another job for Ixta. He needs Ixta to destroy Autloc's faith in Yetaxa. And in order to do that, he gives Ixta Ian's club, and he tells him to use it to strike Autloc down.
I guess that would destroy his faith? Or wait, is he trying to destroy his face? Thanks for the laugh.
Faith.
I'm not sure I deserved it.
But yeah, I think the idea is that Autloc gets attacked. Ixta is supposed to leave Ian's club at the scene after he attacks him. And then, like, Ian's club will be discovered and everyone will be like, oh shit, the servant of Yetaxa attacked Autloc.
Like, does this club have his name on this side? Or, like, what?
Basically, they all have, like, their own special clubs. Ixta had given this one to Ian in a previous episode. So Tlatoxel gives Ian's club to Ixta, tells him to use it to strike Autloc down. And at first, Ixta's just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, it's illegal to attack a high priest. But Tlatoxel has to, like, spell it out for him.
Each day as the sun rises, Autloc walks in meditation alone in the garden. Approach him with stealth and strike him down. Leave this close at hand.
And then a light bulb goes on over Ixta's head. He finally understands. And he's like, oh, I get it.
So that Ian will be blamed.
Well, it's a kid's show, and yeah, I mean, you had to explain it to me, so I can't really blame Ixta for not being quicker on the uptake here.
So our heroes have a new plan now. Barbtaxa and the Doctor are going to keep waiting in the temple, while Ian and Susan head to the old folks' garden, move the stone, and go through the tunnel. Then they can just open the tomb from the inside and let Barbtaxa and the Doctor in.
I'm sure it will be just that easy.
Mm-hmm. So they head to the garden, but in the garden, they discover the body of Autloc on the ground. He's not dead, he's just unconscious. But, of course, Ian's club is also there on the ground next to Autloc, and, like, Ian picks it up, wondering what it's doing there.
Wow, they were trying to, like, set him up to take the fall, and he just, like, decided to help them, basically. Make it that much easier.
Yeah, and of course, it's like, as he's standing there holding the club next to Autloc's unconscious body, when Tlatoxel and Ixta and a few other guards all show up, and, they're like, what the fuck? And Autloc kind of starts waking up, and the guards all arrest Ian and Susan, and as they are taking them away, Autloc shouts out,
"You are the servants of a false goddess."
So I guess Tlatoxel's plan worked.
Yeah, I feel a little bad for him. He's had a rough time.
Yeah, he probably gets it the worst in this whole serial. Well, except for maybe Susan. Tlatoxel discusses this new development, which is, Autloc's rejection of Barbtaxa, with Tanilla, the other priest. We've got Tlatoxel, High Priest of Sacrifice, Autloc, High Priest of Knowledge, Tanilla, other priest.
Yes.
They understand that they can't reveal Barbtaxa's falsity to, like, the people until the right time. Which
that dramatic moment.
Right.
Live for the drama, Kyle.
Of course, the most dramatic moment approaching is the upcoming eclipse. So that's going to be the plan. Tanilla wonders, like, how they're going to get rid of her. And Tlatoxel has actually a really sinister plan for how they're going to get rid of her. he says,
As the gods appear, may they not also disappear just as suddenly? I shall arrange it. I had a vision, Cornelia, of a room with 3 walls. The false Yetaxa shall be placed in that room, and the 4th wall added. Then order shall be restored.
Well, we remember from the Dalek serial that Barbara is actually a master of 4 walls.
That's true.
Do you remember when she's in the elevator?
Yeah. Yeah, she does the opposite of breaking the 4th wall. She reinforces the 4th wall in that scene.
So clearly, she's got 4th walls all figured out.
The Doctor is hanging out with his fiancée, Kameka, as he whittles a piece of wood. And he's like whittling it into this round shape. It's pretty clear that he's actually making a pulley wheel. Kameka asks him what it is, and he's like,
Oh, just something to take my mind off the problems.
Mm-hmm.
Problems, of course, being that Ian is innocent of attacking Autloc, but Ixta's gonna kill him anyway.
Doctor, you've been engaged for 1 day and you're already lying to your fiancé.
Kameka makes some comment about how they can totally postpone the marriage if that's what the Doctor wishes. And he just doesn't respond. He just kind of looks off into the distance. So she ends up heading out to try to convince Autloc to talk to Yetaxa again at the Doctor's urging. So, maybe they can somehow save Ian this way. I'm not quite sure how that worked, but
I feel bad for her too.
Yeah, she actually probably is in a maybe not quite as bad a position as Autloc, but still pretty rough for her.
Yeah. I mean, it's not her fault. I think she genuinely really likes the Doctor.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear that she does. And then, she's just like, oh, cool, I've got this cool fiancé now. He seems to really like me. He is all up on my cocoa. Everything's going good. I'm trying to give him his space. I'm trying to help him out with his problems. This is going to be a pretty nice time for me. And then oh, I don't know.
Yeah. So she does convince Autloc to talk to Barb Taxa one more time. But when he talks to Barb Taxa, he basically ends up telling her that he believes her that Ian didn't attack him, but he doesn't believe any longer that she's really Yetaxa and that she's really a goddess.
To be fair, he's right on both counts.
Yeah. He says that he might be able to protect Susan from being punished, but basically there's nothing he can do to save Ian. And with that, he leaves the temple. Back in the old folks' garden, the Doctor finishes whittling his pulley wheel, and Kameka's like, well, bye.
I do not know what its purpose is, but I've always known it would take you from me,
she says.
I've always known in the past 5 minutes you've been working on it, this would be the end of our beautiful relationship.
Doctor's basically just like, sorry, but yeah. He does tell her,
You're a very fine woman, Kameka, and you'll always be very, very dear to me.
But she just walks off.
Oh, it was nice of him to say it, but yeah, that's I still feel bad for her.
Yeah.
So yeah, for what a jerk the Doctor usually is, and how kind of honestly fairly unobservant he is of people's emotions and feelings. I'm glad that he at least was paying enough attention and cared enough to say something.
Yeah, that's true. He does at least kind of try to let her down gently a little bit.
Yeah.
Hello. This is Dalek Kyle. I hope you are enjoying this podcast. If so, please leave a 5-star review on iTunes and tell your friends about the podcast. If you are not enjoying it, you can leave a 5-star review anyway to give Benny and I a false sense of security. Thank you for listening. So she walks off. She runs into Autloc over in the other part of the garden. And Autloc's like, oh shit, you look sad. And she's like, yeah, the doctor just dumped my ass. And Autloc's like, oh, that sucks. But the truth just dumped my ass. And yeah, Kameka's like, yeah, okay, that's worse.
Then they're like, well, we're both newly single. I still have half a pot of cocoa left.
Uh-huh. How does Autmeka sound?
Come on.
So Autloc gives
Sorry, go ahead.
Autloc gives her a pendant that apparently represents his house and all of his money. Like it's basically like the password to his bank account.
Dang.
And he asks her to use it to go and bribe whoever's guarding Susan so that Kameka can then rescue Susan and take her back to Barb Taxa.
Mm-hmm.
Kameka agrees to this plan, and Autloc heads out into the wilderness to seek his truth.
Mm.
Meanwhile, back at the platform outside the temple, preparations are being made for the upcoming eclipse ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Tanilla is escorting PV among all the people, kind of his final march or whatever. Ian and Susan are both under guard. And in the temple, the doctor is installing his pulley wheel behind the throne to facilitate opening the wall with the strap more easily.
All the pieces are moving into position.
Mm-hmm. Of course, Tlatoxel shows up at the temple, so the doctor has to hide for a minute because Tlatoxel is here to collect Barb Taxa for the ceremonies. Mm-hmm. And it is in this moment that he tells Barb Taxa that Autloc is gone. He's not coming to the ceremony. He is, out in the wilderness, basically. We don't expect to see him again.
Mm-hmm.
Kameka shows up at the Warriors' Hall, and she shows Autloc's medallion to the guard, and she starts explaining the deal to him. She's like, look here, he's got his password written down right here.
That's a lowercase L, not a 1.
Uh-huh. She tells him, I'm going to give this to you, and you're going to look away when, Susan and I GTFO. But the guard seems a little bit unsure. So Ian, who's also there under guard, just gives him a nice double-fisted punch from behind, knocking him out.
That works too.
Saying,
well, somebody had to make up his mind for him.
You could have taken the bribe, buddy.
Well, Kameka does actually place Autloc's medallion in the unconscious guard's hand.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, she's definitely lawful good if we're going to go back to the alignment discussions.
I'll say I'm not sure how Autloc will be, how he'll feel about her just basically giving away all his stuff when she didn't have to, but I guess he's in the wilderness now. He's got more metaphysical problems.
Yeah. So Kameka takes Susan. They leave. Ian stays behind for a moment, though, and we see him removing the guard's cool eagle helmet.
Oh, very nice. He's got a plan.
Mm-hmm. We cut over to Kameka and Susan arriving at the temple, where Susan runs up and hugs the doctor. And the doctor tells Kameka how brave she was to, like, save Susan and bring her and stuff.
Oh my gosh, thank you, doctor.
Yeah.
Also, I like the hug.
Yeah, that was nice.
I think characters should hug more on TV and movies and just in general. Big fan of hugs. You know, I'm an awkward hugger in real life, but I always like seeing characters hugging in TV shows and movies.
Yeah, and you know, I don't think we mention it very often here, but Susan and the doctor are actually grandfather and granddaughter, so it's a family hug. She hasn't seen her grandpa in a while, so yeah, I thought that was nice. Kameka says that she wants to stay with the doctor, and she's like very clearly angling to actually become the first new companion of the series.
Okay, cool.
But the doctor like doesn't even say anything in response. He just like looks away.
The doctor's like, I don't know. We have to check with the BBC and find out what our budget is for the rest of the season.
So Kameka just says,
And think of me. Think of me.
asshole, and leaves.
Nice.
Tlatoxel and Ixta discover that Ian and Susan are missing, but Tlatoxel's like, shit, we don't have time to go find them before the eclipse comes. Like, the eclipse is definitely going to happen for sure, so we really need to do that sacrifice on time. But, like, he does have Ixta just kill the guard that got bribed.
Oh, I mean, sure. I mean, might as well, right?
Yeah, while you're there. So back at the temple, the guards escort Barb Taxa out onto the platform where the ceremony is going to take place. Tlatoxel arrives, and I guess he's like deviating from their plan earlier because he just pulls a knife on Barb Taxa and like tries to stab her and accuses her of being a false goddess.
Okay.
I guess we're just abandoning this whole room with three walls plan.
I mean, he was like really excited to do this thing, and also, I know he's not a PC, but like, how D&D is it to come up with some incredibly elaborate plan, and then when some like other opportunity shows up to just do some like completely off the cuff thing that you just happen to come up with on the spot.
Turns out it was a bad call on Tlatoxel's part. The original plan probably would have gone better because it turns out the guard standing behind Barbara is wearing an eagle helmet, and
Gasp.
we know who that is.
Ian, person of action.
It's Ian, person of action,
yes,
for the listeners. So Ian stops the attack. Susan and
does
Barbara...
he get a cool line, or does he just sort of grab his knife?
I think he just grabbed the knife. I don't think they put a good one-liner in there.
Okay, well, he's had a lot of, like, surprise Ian moments.
Yeah, that's true. So he stops the attack, and Susan and Barbara and the doctor all start messing with the leather strap and the doctor's pulley, while Ian and Ixta start fighting. Mm-hmm. This time, they're fighting with clubs, which we may recall from a previous episode that this is actually like Ixta's specialty. He has a proficiency in clubs. Mm. You know, Ian had the unarmed fighting proficiency, but Ixta's got clubs. And in this fight, it actually does seem pretty apparent that, you know, he's good with the clubs. He starts getting the upper hand on Ian, and, they're fighting out on the platform, and he gets Ian backed up to the edge of the platform, and Ian's like on the ground. He's like prone on his back at the edge of the platform. But just as Ixta comes in to deliver the killing blow, turns out Ian's got a reaction move that he's been saving.
Nice.
So like as Ixta swings his club down, Ian is able to grab Ixta and just like flip him over off of the platform, where Ixta falls to his death, presumably.
Nice.
And yeah. So, always good to have a spare reaction saved up.
Yes, he read the rule book.
So Ian gets himself up off the ground and he heads back over to the throne area, where our other three protagonists have managed to start getting the wall open. And so Ian like grabs the wall and pulls it open the rest of the way. And the four of them all rush through the open wall. The Doctor grabs his pulley, takes it with him.
Never know when you can use a good pulley.
Right. Also don't want to like introduce technologies to the Aztecs that they didn't have.
Also true.
And yeah, the wall closes behind them. They are now safe inside the tomb. And out on the platform, Tlatoxel and the guards all rush in, but of course there's nobody there to be found. The eclipse happens, and Tlatoxel kills PV, saying,
Great God of the sun and the warriors, I, Tlatoxel, thank you for this victory. In your honor, let perfect sacrifice be made.
Dang. So who kills Tlatoxel?
He survives.
You mean he wins? Jesus, Kyle, why'd you read me this thing for?
Inside the tomb, Barbara is like,
What was the point of traveling through time and space? I can't change anything. Nothing. The Toxel had to win.
Yeah.
And like, not only that, she says, but
And the one man I had respect for, I deceived. Poor Autloc. I gave him false hope. And in the end, he lost his faith.
Yeah, Autloc, who was also kind of not a huge fan of sacrifice, and maybe if they hadn't destroyed his faith and sent him off into the wilderness, maybe he would have done something about it. So maybe actually inadvertently they ended up perpetuating the practice of human sacrifice.
that is how it usually seems to work in time travel situations, as far as I can tell. The thing that you're trying to prevent, you'll probably end up just accidentally causing.
But wait, Voyager came across a distress signal that seemed to be sent from a Starfleet vessel. How could that be way out here, so far away from any other Starfleet ships?
The Doctor tries to comfort Barbara. He tells her that
He found another faith. A better. And that's the good you've done. You failed to save a civilization, but at least you helped one man.
Okay.
So I guess like the Doctor's position is that in ruining Autloc's faith in the religion that he's believed in and dedicated his entire life to, she's given him faith in skepticism, I guess. I'm not entirely sure.
I'll just chalk this up to the Doctor trying to help her feel better.
Yeah. She does remove the grave-robbed bracelets that started the whole mess, but of course also probably saved their lives back at the start. And she places it back with Yatoxa's corpse.
Cool.
And heads into the TARDIS. The Doctor... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, all right, she left all the pieces, returned everything the way it was, as they were leaving.
The Doctor has this gem that he pulls out of his pocket that Kameka had given to him as a gift. And, like, he places it next to Yetaxa's corpse, like he's going to leave it there. But then at the last moment, he changes his mind and he grabs it and then heads into the TARDIS.
It actually looks like a pretty nice gem. Yoink!
Uh-huh. We cut to some time later. It is unclear how much time has passed, but it's definitely been enough time for fanfic adventures to happen. We can tell that partially because of the fade to black, indicating passage of time, but also everyone's wearing different clothing now.
Oh, okay, cool, interesting. It's one less piece of continuity for fanfic writers to have to follow.
Susan is wearing these overalls over like a stripy shirt. The Doctor is wearing his usual long dark jacket, but he's wearing it over like this kind of pinstripe suit, which is kind of an odd look, but interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Ian was wearing like a Steve Jobs turtleneck.
Nice.
And Barbara's wearing like this sleeveless dress. So we cut to this new scene after our costume change, and it turns out there is a mystery with the TARDIS instruments.
Gasp.
Some of the instruments say that the TARDIS is still moving, but some of them say that the TARDIS has stopped.
What could it mean?
Ian suggests that maybe they've landed on top of something, and Barbara suggests...
Or inside something.
And the title, next episode, Strangers in Space, appears on screen.
Cool title. Doesn't tell us much, but it's a cool title.
Uh-huh.
Nice. So, Kyle, here we are at the end of a serial. And so I'm curious. I think I may know at least part of your answer, but would you recommend to our listeners that they check out the Aztecs?
That is a very good question, and one that I only realized about 30 seconds ago that I forgot to write any notes about my answer to, so this is completely off the cuff.
Nice.
And yeah, I will say that we have been referring to this serial a few times throughout as a problematic fave, and I definitely think that's a pretty apt description. It is obviously pretty problematic, as we've been discussing for 4 episodes now. But if you're able to look past the problematic parts, accept them for what they are and the time they were written and all that, the actual plot itself is pretty entertaining. I think you mentioned in an earlier episode that, like, you had an easier time with it if you pretended that it was a sci-fi serial about some alien civilization rather than a historical serial about the Aztecs. And yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think this serial has a lot of what we expect from classic Who. It's,
the good and the bad.
Right, good and the bad. Yeah, exactly. So I guess ultimately I would have to say that I am not sure I can really truly recommend it because of all the problematic stuff. But it was fun. I feel a little bit dirty enjoying it, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, I think that the problematicness, in some ways, acknowledging that and keeping that in mind as you're watching these is a good way of, like, remembering how not so long ago, nobody really questioned this type of storyline. And given that Doctor Who is still around and is still running and still presumably the same show, like the continuity extends all the way back.
Right.
Whether or not they always stick super close to it, I don't know, but it presumably is the same Doctor, same TARDIS, same story. It's good to sort of remember that it does come from this sort of problematic place. And as a modern audience, when we look back on these older episodes, I don't know, maybe I'm on my soapbox. I'll get off the soapbox, but no, I think it's good to remember and acknowledge and kind of face up to the problematic nature, while still also seeing that there were some entertaining moments, like because okay, I'm back on my soapbox. But
that's what podcasts are for.
Yes. But yeah, there's this, I've heard sometimes this kind of approach to things where it's like, well, was it problematic or was it enjoyable? And it's like, and like sometimes, you have to acknowledge that, like, something can be problematic, and you say, oh man, those are some shitty elements right there, and oh man, what just happened was, in this case, like racist, sexist, like they ageist, ableist, like they hit a bunch of those boxes. But like, we're not going to pretend that, like, oh, I don't understand how anybody could ever have enjoyed this, or anybody could ever have produced this or thought that this was okay, because, like, clearly, there's action, there's humor, there's like little pieces of possibly romance scattered in, there's like mystery and plots taking place that are compelling.
Right.
Like you. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, as uncomfortable as it might be to acknowledge, like, the fact is that problematic and enjoyable are not necessarily mutually exclusive.
Yeah, and like you mentioned feeling kind of shitty having enjoyed it, and I think that acknowledging that those two things can overlap, and how complicated that can be to sort of unravel, is important, because sometimes people do this thing where they just assume that if somebody likes something, then it can't be problematic.
Right. Or if you like it, you like completely 100% approve of everything in it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's not actually necessarily the case.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's this thing where it's like, oh no, that can't possibly be problematic, because, like, so and so liked it and they're not a gross problematic person. But it's like, yeah,
right.
well, but let's talk about how things can be sort of complicated and can require like a critical eye, a critical approach. Yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying right now. I don't know if this is making any sense, or I'm not trying to like defend problematic things or say, oh, that's fine, you should just go ahead and make things that have racist elements or sexist or ageist or ableist or any of these things. Like, obviously, no, don't do that. As a creator and as a consumer, I think that it's good to like call these things out when you see them, and if possible,
right.
like don't support them, but to then turn around and pretend that, like, these things are just this weird anomaly that we can't even understand or engage with in any way. I think that's also kind of not the best approach.
Right. And like, even as a creator, I think, it's okay to have, like, for example, a racist character do and say racist things if you understand what you're doing as a creator, and, like, if that furthers the goal of your story, or,
sure.
If,
well,
like, if we kind of had a similar, yeah,
which this episode didn't necessarily always do. Well, it didn't. I mean, it just straight up didn't always do. So
yeah, and I think that's the problem, is that, yeah, like, this episode or this serial was perpetuating stereotypes that it was not acknowledging and not not coming out and saying this is shitty.
Yeah,
I think if you're gonna have a racist character do racist things, you need to make it clear that it's shitty.
Yeah, I think, and then some of it comes out as like, does it have to be in the text? Does it have to be like apparent to the audience? What's the creator's responsibility there? To what level do they have to like interpret this on behalf of the audience?
Right.
I think in this case, as a fairly straightforward children's show in which your protagonist characters, who have always been shown as being sympathetic and like the point of view characters for the audience, kind of the audience surrogates, having them display these like problematic behaviors is pretty like unequivocally endorsing, tacitly endorsing, but still endorsing a lot of these shitty behaviors and problematic assumptions.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'd be curious if our audience, if you folks have thoughts on this type of thing, if you want to write in or tweet us, email us your thoughts. I'd be kind of curious what your take on it is. Whether you've just listened to these episodes or whether you've seen the serial, and then what you think of all this, like, problematic fave situation.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely shoot us an email or hit us up on Twitter.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'd love to have that discussion.
Okay. Do you have any other thoughts for this one?
No, I don't think so. With Strangers in Space coming up next, I am hopeful that won't be laden with racism.
Yes.
I guess we'll find out in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Also, I know we talked about the upcoming election, and this is our first post-election recording session. Like, technically, the previous episode, which was also recorded today, was the first one that we recorded post-election. But I'll say, so far so good. I hope things haven't taken a strange turn for the worse.
Indeed.
Between now and when this episode comes out.
This episode actually, it'll come out on the 2nd of January. So,
oh Jesus, that's getting
listeners. Yeah, you've got like 2.5 more weeks to hang in there. And hopefully things will get better soon.
All right, cool. Hang in there, listeners. We love you.
We love you indeed.
All right. Well, Kyle, thanks for taking me through another Doctor Who serial, and I'll look forward to the next one.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Benny here. The Doctor's Watcher would like to thank Circuit23 for the awesome theme song he created for us. You can find his music, including our theme, at soundcloud.com/circuit23. And you can reach him at circuit.23, that's circuit.23 @gmail.com. Thanks to Kyle for talking to me about Doctor Who, and thanks to all of you for listening to me, listening to Kyle talk about Doctor Who. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us at thedoctorswatcher@gmail.com or on Twitter at DrWatcher. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or wherever you review your podcasts. Join us next time on The Doctor's Watcher.
Here you are, my dear. It's nearly finished.
As is our time together. I do not know what its purpose is, but I've always known it would take you from me.
Yes, I'm sorry, my dear.
Tomorrow will truly be a day of darkness.